This is just embarrassing. How can one man be so basketball pilled, that he spends 20 years skill maxing and fitness maxing just to play basketball?
When I first heard the suffix maxing, it was in the word looksmaxxing, and my understanding at the time was that words like looksmaxxing was really mostly used by people that I would describe as incels, but about a year later, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Maxing has spread far beyond the incel realm, even if a lot of people using it now are using it to make fun of incels. But one question that I just couldn't get out of my head was, is there any linguistic restrictions to the suffix maxing? Because at first glance, it seems pretty free, right? Maxing attaches to any old word, but still, I decided to swim through the internet and see if I can find any restrictions or some type of rule here. I started with the nouns, and I think nouns are pretty free for the most part. Like, you can attach maxing to most nouns if you really want to. I think it's a possibility that when you get to too many syllables, maxing stops working. Like, it's harder to imagine, like, sphygmomanometer maxing, but hey, maybe. But adjectives are more of a mixed bag. Like, adjectives that end in Y or the E vowel tend to work like silly maxing, and adjectives that end in some tend to work like wholesome maxing, but other adjectives have a rougher time with this. Like beautiful maxing, immature maxing, I really got nothing. And I think at least part of this can be explained by the morphemes at play here and the productivity of them, because a word like handsome is two parts, right? It comes from hand, like what we grab with, and some, which turns nouns into adjectives. But some isn't as productive anymore. We're not really using it to make very many new adjectives, if any. So when we look back at handsome, it looks a little bit more like one part, even though it's actually two parts. Similarly, we use the suffix ly to make a lot of adverbs, but adjectives with the ly suffix like ugly is fewer and further between. But adjectives like immature or beautiful is clearly multiple parts, and we still use their counterparts like beauty and mature. So maybe recognizing that some of these words already have obvious morphemes and modifications makes it resistant to the maxing. Verbs didn't really agree with maxing, like words like right maxing or try maxing really got me nowhere. I saw maybe one or two examples of eat maxing, but what was more popular was the nouns like vitamin maxing, health maxing, enjoyment maxing. But there are some verbs that can also be nouns that confuse me. Like walk maxing and dance maxing both work, but I wasn't clear on if the users of these terms were thinking of walk and dance more like nouns or more like verbs. So, in conclusion, you can max a lot of things, but not everything.